It's often said that our lives are just a series of interconnected events. You never forget your first concert, your wedding day, that first award of recognition. We remember these events and the emotions they create. Events connect us, inspire us, and make us who we are.
It's a group of people that have something in common. We have the power to bring them together.
Human connection, but also to celebrate culture, heritage.
So many memorable moments. It's the sharing, just that energy frequency where we can all go to a place that no one can touch or feel. It's almost like a spiritual place.
For centuries, we've come together to celebrate, innovate, and experience something bigger than ourselves. In the last few decades, a global industry has emerged to cater for this crucial aspect of our lives. Millions of people work tirelessly to create the moments we experience. It's an industry estimated to be worth $1.3 trillion and growing.
I delivered events all over the world for 20 years plus.
For this year alone, there are 35 events in my event calendar.
We've done anything from the 5,000 person small event to the 100,000.
But bigger isn't always better. And beyond the spectacle, after the event is over and memories have been made, something else, something that we rarely see, remains. Waste.
The massive amount of waste that was being generated, when you actually physically saw it, it was just, wow, this is just mind-blowing.
Bedlam is probably the best way you can describe an event. You can just imagine in your head that if you went into your garden and ripped open your bin bags and just left them on the floor, that's basically what you're looking at.
As the people leave, you just see a sea of plastic.
The catwalk show was 9 minutes. £30,000 worth of mirror glass was used for 9 minutes, and then afterwards just went straight into a skip.
We create, we consume, and then we discard. This waste doesn't disappear, it lingers. It pollutes, it destroys. If we're not careful, this will be our only legacy. Not the moments we make, but the waste we leave behind. The first event I ever organised was a shopping centre tour of all the big and best shopping centres across the UK for Lipton iced tea. I've got to say, it didn't go completely smoothly. Lots of things went wrong on that first event, but actually, things going wrong is what teaches a producer how to be good at their job. So I still like to think back on those unglamorous days of shopping centre tours and think that actually stood me in good stead to become a good producer. My name's Sarah Goodchild, and I'm an executive event producer, and I've worked in the industry for over 20 years. I've worked in ad agencies, event agencies, directly with clients. I have my own clients in New York. I'm essentially a freelance event consultant now. I love the adrenaline that you get from working in the event industry. We are in an industry where you deliver something that you've been working on and you actually get to see the audience face. You feel their appreciation. And so events is a really great thing for that. I was working in a large creative agency, and the type of work that we were doing was specifically about getting press, their stunts. So therefore the creative team want to do a world first or something that's really going to get attention. And so therefore the ideas that come in hand with that are often things that go up quickly and then come down again. And one of the ideas that kept getting floated was, let's develop thousands and thousands of rubber ducks and float them down the Thames. They discussed whether it was a good idea and how much press that they would get, but no one actually thought we'd be creating thousands of rubber ducks to float down the Thames, and then what? So that really sat with me. So now I'm thinking back in hindsight, even back to those days where I talk about my first ever job in a sampling campaign. Sampling campaigns come with taking a lot of stock. And when that isn't given out, then it gets trashed. So I've then started to think about all the events I've done and how much that I have created that has become waste. And it's a real problem. In 2023, there were 136,000 events attracting 1.12 billion attendees globally. Of these, B2B events alone produced a total of 566,368 tonnes of waste. That's equivalent to the annual residential waste produced by the city of Washington, D.C. A volume of 2.6 million cubic metres, which is enough to completely fill all 18 halls of the Messe Munich Exhibition Centre. Overall greenhouse gas emissions, just from these B2B events, were 2.845 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent if the waste was landfilled, or 3 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent if incinerated. That's the equivalent of around 450,000 return flights from London to New York, an equivalent that would need to be sequestered by a forest of at least 6 million trees. I know that I don't want to be part of the problem anymore, and I also know that there are many others like me that are committed to reducing waste. I really want to be part of the solution without having to leave the industry that I love. But what exactly is the solution? Events are a global enterprise on every continent, in every city. B2B trade shows are a place where thousands of people from all walks of life cross paths, trade stories, swap details and look to invest in their future. They're incredibly important for business and networking opportunities.
My name's Graham Richardson-Locke. I'm the Head of Associations and Technical Lead at FESPA, and I'm also the advocate for sustainability within the organisation. So we're an international trade federation within the specialty print sector. And our mission is to provide networking opportunities through events. We set up a mini city for 4 days. It involves an awful lot of build materials. It involves samples in production, where we have an exhibition with 8 halls, 550 plus exhibitors. Inevitably, we have an impact. And the question is how we reduce that impact over time.
That was not a good decision.
I remember the first time I became conscious of waste, and really for events, it's the fact that these are temporary events. So we built a club lounge, and it had multiple materials. It had MDF, it had fabric, it had vinyl. It looked absolutely stunning, but suddenly it felt like it was too much for the duration of the event. It was the first recalibration of my expectations and ambition for what we could do in the future to make it more appropriate, less impactful, and allow us to, year on year, just continually improve this position.
The breakdown of an event is a really crazy and chaotic time. The amount of time given to someone to set up an event is more than double the time that the breakdown is. So obviously, what do you get in that? Crazy, fast-paced, people running into the venue, taking down their particular part, all because they have a deadline to get out. It's noisy, it's chaotic, and you're all fighting. You could be fighting for the lift at the same time. You could be fighting to get your items onto your truck at the same time. So it's really difficult, with the best will in the world, to pay that much attention to sorting in that kind of frenzy.
It always amazes me that what takes days to build seems to come down almost in minutes.
You get asked what's important in the industry. I think the waste side of it, the sanitation side of it, the cleaning is equally as important as when they start off picking the acts and designing the tickets. I'm Chris. I'm the operations manager at iClean. We deal in sustainable waste management. iClean have been involved in a number of events over the last 4 years, some big, some quite small. We did South Facing in London, and we've also worked at the biggest events like Download, Leeds Festival, Reading Festivals. We're very much forgotten sometimes, but without the people that do what we do, you'd never have these events. We find that events generate quite a large amount of waste. In our experience, a one-day event in a London park for 15,000 people will produce about 12 tonnes of waste. If you do a 5-day camping festival, that's 120 tonnes of waste. And what a lot of people don't realise is if it rains, that can raise up to 150 tonnes. We ensure that it's actually handled responsibly and properly. 50% of it is recycled, 50% of it goes to be waste for fuel, basically, is the best way to describe it. We won't put it in the ground. Unfortunately, some companies do. There is a cost implication involved in doing it the way we do it. Some people just look at the bottom line, which I think is the biggest mistake they can make at the moment. Anybody that puts waste into landfill is obviously causing a major problem to the planet. The landfill itself doesn't dispose of the product, it just sits there, and over so many years it will degrade, but at a rate that it's just not controllable. The pollutants that come from different products degrading in the ground, all mixing together, it's just frightening.
All of this, when it decomposes, ends up releasing methane and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And that's not to mention other harmful byproducts of decomposition. Microplastics and chemical waste.
At iClean, we tend to find that PVC is used quite a lot in banners, signs, that sort of thing on events. PVC is a very difficult product to recycle for various different reasons. One of the main ones is you can't just send it off to even be burnt to be used as fuel because it produces so many different chemicals as well. We do work with suppliers that recycle PVCs. Some of it, unfortunately, ends up having to go to Germany, so you're almost sort of working against yourself by having to ship stuff out there.
I wanted to find out what happened to all those waste banners. Where did they go? My name is Nova Abbott. I'm the head of marketing for Coverland. We track it twice. We track it in the States and we track it in Germany. All the waste, skips of waste, recyclable or not, they all ended up in the same place. The waste handlers that we work with actually told us a bit more on how they process the waste. Most of it in Europe went to waste-to-energy incineration to be processed. Whether we like it or not, it's recyclable. It doesn't get recycled, sadly.
The banner polyester fabrics take less than 20 years to biodegrade in landfill, but PVC coatings, they don't biodegrade at all. So they can leach toxic content into the local environment for more than 500 years. In Europe, most of the PVC banners are primarily disposed of in waste-to-energy incinerators.
So we're talking about dioxins, and we're talking about leaches that are leaking out to the environment. They really poison the land and the ground. And if you incinerate it, I mean, the PM 2.5, the air quality, the most immediate effect is actually human health. The pulmonary system is all affected, whether we like it or not, and we can't see it, but it's on it, it's constantly going. The cancer rate is keep going on. I mean, it is really correlated.
We love to recycle as much as we can, but obviously there's an awful lot of contaminants on an event site. There's an awful lot of products that get bought in that you might not have had so much say on, so we have to sort it all properly. We can find that glass can be complicated to recycle, but unfortunately sites use a variety of different staff and a variety of different people who won't necessarily take as much care as we would. Anything can be chucked into a glass skip. You take the glass away from site, it then has to be properly sorted again, so it goes through a conveyor belt process first to be washed before it can then go on to be recycled. And you can recycle the paper and cardboards really successfully. If you're talking about actually in the live events, often the paper again is just put into a bin as people walk past, it gets cross-contaminated. That then makes it basically an unrecyclable product and it'll just end up going either to be burnt or to landfill.
Sometimes, both in the events industry and in our day-to-day lives, we like to think of recycling as this ultimate antidote to the waste we produce. But it's not quite that simple. Of course recycling matters. As a result of waste being sent for recycling, greenhouse gas emissions are reduced by 80% compared to landfill, and 57% compared with incineration. But with all its complexities and the limited infrastructure, we can't rely on it alone to solve the waste crisis in our industry. It needs to be used alongside other practices. The question is, what?
My name is Natty, and I am a recording artist, writer, and producer. Growing up in London, I ended up going to like a lot of clubs and dances. I remember seeing a guy called Kalashnikov. I was 14, and I just remember him crying on stage because the whole place was singing his song. And yeah, since then, I was just hooked on the live music. Performing live is something that I take very seriously. I've worked very hard over the years to try and perfect my craft. The energy that flows from us to the audience and back again is almost cathartic. Touring does have a carbon footprint. Last year I performed in, I think, 5 countries. But because I live in Jamaica and I don't tour here, anytime I book a tour, I'm having to fly. I can't help but fly. I've made some changes to how I tour, but what has changed more is the logistics so that we're not taking long-haul flights unnecessarily and we're not traveling up and down the country unnecessarily. We've tightened the ship in that regard. When I started touring and that, there was nobody telling me anything about how to go about not only reducing my carbon footprint, but just moving in a state of consciousness at one with your environment. That was something that I picked up just through my own well-being and my own education. I think there could be more awareness of the environmental impact of live music, particularly to venues, tour managers, and people actually ground level. I've done a few headline shows, which means I'm one of the last acts to leave. And so I get to see that when all the people have left, just like literally just, you couldn't even count. You can't even see the grass. It's just mud and plastic. Every musician knows that feeling because they have a sensitivity towards that. There are certain bigger festivals that I've done where it's a sea of tents. The amount of tents that get left behind is unbelievable. And that combined with the plastic, combined with just, man, even clothes. Like, why you don't leave with your clothes, bro? And yes, there are cleanup procedures, but I do believe that we have this way of trying to put plasters over things, instead of trying to stop it at source.
Single-use cups are one of the largest culprits of plastic waste in the live music world. It's become a force of habit. We buy a drink, we throw away the cup, then we buy another drink, then we throw away the cup, until we're 10 drinks in and 10 cups down. But what if we just held on to the first one we were given?
The industry is worth about 1.2 billion cups a year in the UK. So if you think about that for a minute, 1.2 billion cups. My name's John Reeves. I'm one of the directors at Event Cup Solutions. We're the company behind the One Planet, One Chance reusable cup system. So we work across some of the UK's largest indoor arenas, such as the O2 Arena in London, Wembley Arena, Hammersmith Apollo. Within the festival sector, we work with Kendal Live and Lost Village festivals. Some of the most familiar names up and down the country.
At festivals, stadiums and concerts, One Planet, One Chance are changing how we drink and how we think. Their reusable cup system is turning single-use habits into closed-loop solutions.
We deliver all of the cups in our own transport. Our team will offload the cups and then we will work with our client. They will give us a distribution list and we will then distribute all the cups to all the bars across the venue. Our team, which will consist of event managers, event supervisors and cup crew, will then remain on site for the whole event. And then our team are responsible for making sure that the site is completely cleared of cups after the event. So that means the cups are all brought back to one central point, they're all sorted back into crates, put back onto pallets, wrapped and sent back to the wash centres. The teams at the wash centres then have got very short turnaround times to turn those numbers back up to our head office, and then we can then create reports to our customers. This is actually something that's very, very simple to introduce. It's very simple to execute, and it's very simple for the consumer to understand. In 2025, we're estimating that we will wash 40 million plus cups. 40 million cups is a significant number of cups to remove from the waste stream. And when you translate that back to energy reduction, to waste reduction, to CO2 emissions reduction, this is something that does make a difference. The data is pretty conclusive. The environmental impact of single use versus reuse is there for all to see. Now, we think we're at 40 million just now, so we reckon we've got 4% market share of what is over 1 billion cups per year. So 40 million's a big number, but we've got a hell of a long way to go.
If all of the top festivals and all the top venues had to use 1 cup per person, for example, and that was non-negotiable, for me, that would be the one place where I would start.
Maybe it starts with a cup, one you choose not to throw away, one you carry forward. But the process is not without its complications. Not 100% of the cups are always returned.
One of the challenges that we come across regularly is that many customers still want to come up with their own branded cup or with a sponsor branded cup. That's something that we face on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, you will lose more if you go down that route, which will drive the cost up further. The major change that we need to see is a change in consumer behaviour and the way that customers think.
Recycling can make a real difference, and reuse has the power to transform our habits. These approaches aren't perfect, but they are proof that change is possible. Instead of seeing waste as inevitable, maybe the answer isn't only in managing what we discard, but in rethinking how we create, so there's less to throw away in the first place.
We are in a society where waste is disposed of, and we think we do the right thing by putting it in the right bin, and then it disappears. We don't know where it goes, right? Most people don't know. They have a very vague idea. We come, we do something, we leave the waste, and it will be dealt with. But can we reduce it? Can we do something with it? My name is Julien Lebus. I'm a creative director for Jack Morton Worldwide. I lead creative, and I'm also in charge of sustainability worldwide. I've been with Jack Morton for about 16 years. I love what I do. I've been basically working, around the world, meeting a lot of people, discovering new craft, new personalities, new cultures. It's always very interesting. I kind of went from really doing the design to moving into a creative direction and taking on more and more and discovering more elements, basically, of creative. Very often, only a few people can really see the whole thing beside on renderings. When it comes to life, it's quite wonderful. There's something quite magical about it. When I started working, I worked a lot in Australia, and some of our clients were in China. And at that time, all of the auto show, mostly work, was being built for a few days and then completely thrown away, basically. And this is the first time working there that I realized, what are we going to do with all that wood and all of that material that we just bought, for that matter, like a few weeks ago, and realized there was no answer to this. It was someone else's problem. That was really the beginning of a journey. Dealing with waste should be more intentional. And this is something that we usually don't see necessarily. I think in order to plan better, you need to be aware of what you're planning for.
it's difficult to apply sustainability to events retrospectively. So from the get-go, from the design phase, thinking about what you can do, and also how you're going to tell that story. My name is Chrissy Beck. I'm the founder and Event Sustainability Director at Worlds Better. We are an event industry-focused sustainability consultancy. I lecture for a school called the Event Academy. I've been their sustainability lecturer for 5 years now. I love the feeling of delivering a really successful live experience, but after a career delivering events for 20 years all over the world, I started to get disheartened by how unsustainable the events industry truly was. A small change that an event organiser could make to have a big impact is onward life planning. So anything that you purchase or anything that you build bespoke, think about what is going to happen to it after your event. By doing that, you can think about what you can repurpose, what you can donate to communities, what you might be able to hire instead of purchase new, or what materials that you use to make something.
So I started designing with sustainability in mind a long time ago. Started to really talk with the builders, talking with the production, and try to understand how can we limit some of the waste, because you can see you cut something, there's a piece left, what do we do with this?
Reducing waste is like a silver bullet for a lot of the problems we face. Issues regarding recycling and landfill emissions simply don't exist if the waste doesn't exist in the first place. And event suppliers that reduce harmful waste from the onset are growing in number daily.
I think the biggest hurdle for us is the mindset that people tend to use what they know. PVC has been used for decades and it's cheaper. Australia, New Zealand, and surprisingly America as well, most of their waste, they basically got landfilled. So we were asked by our New Zealand customers who said, okay, we have this situation here. How do we go about it? There's a need, then we got the technology, so we can help. So we then now created one that is basically fully biodegradable. When the banners are being printed and used, installed and taken down, when it goes to its end of life process, you can just basically chuck it to the landfill or incineration or to recycle if there's a recycle sort of facility in place, of which is not. However you dispose it, it's not going to be harmful for the environment. That is the biggest difference. But in the end, the consumers who really care about the environment are driving this change. Our partners have been using it basically for the event, the Euro 2024 in Germany and in America as well. I know that the management group of Lumen Field, which is the NFL sort of stadium. So I think gradually it is progressing.
I feel very hopeful about sustainability applied to events, mostly because we see a great progression on multiple fronts. We see a great progression in different cultures, countries, industry, agencies as well. Some large events also have a halo effect, right? Like the Olympics, for example, in Paris, really set the bar very high and pushed everyone to really do it and do it well. The global agencies like Jack Morton basically have a major role to play because they have the volume to really create the change and basically influence the whole supply chain.
Where I'm sitting now, this exhibition stand has been made from a framework that's been used 100 times. It has no residual emissions. We're using recycled polyester as a single material for all of the wall coverings. And it means that we have a low volume of waste after the event.
In 2024, FESPA gained ISO 20012-1 certification, formalising its approach to sustainable event management.
We wanted to establish a credible management system that would be scrutinised annually to help us, so importantly, with continual improvement, implementing plan, do, check, act in everything we do.
I think at the moment there are a lot of different initiatives happening in silos, and there's opportunity for us as an industry to work together to solve challenges at scale. So Julie's Bicycle, for example, they focus on the festival industry. Isla, they focus more on corporate. There's also Event Cycle, who will take anything left over from an event project and they will distribute them to charities, community centres, schools.
It's clear many sustainable options are available to the industry, from suppliers to organisers to initiatives. So why isn't everyone opting for them?
Event organisers are still struggling to adopt some sustainable alternatives because often they have a lot to do in a very short space of time. Often they are very restricted by budget and what the client is demanding of them.
Which is quite helpful.
Cost can play a role in sustainable decisions.
Cost is key. They will often look at their budgets, their bottom lines.
Ultimately, the industry didn't want to know. It was too expensive.
And a lot of the times, it's about the bottom line.
There is a common misconception overall, and it is that being more sustainable costs more money.
We're dealing with an industry that can be obsessed with spectacle. Clients often want their events bigger and conversely cheaper. You need a team and a client that's happy to not necessarily prioritise sustainability in the budget, but to allow it not to be the first thing that's cut. Often, if you're given a really short lead time, the least sustainable option is the easiest. Any last-minute ideas that are coming in quite close to an event's event date are tending to be the ones that are causing the most issue when it comes to sustainability.
There are some low-hanging fruits, decisions you can make in a different way that actually don't have impact on budget, but have impact on waste and carbon footprint.
There are things that can be done that are low cost, they're easy to implement, they happen without your client even knowing about them, and thinking about all of those things from the beginning is really important.
So the first element is better planning, indeed, and better design.
There's also an associated cost with not delivering an event sustainably. So that could be fines for non-compliance, that could be reputational damage. So if you are running a ticketed event and people come to your event and see it's not sustainable, you might have lost their ticket sale for the following year. Or, just brand reputational damage.
So it's clear, reducing waste isn't simply about spending more, it's about planning smarter, collaborating more, and most importantly, changing mindset.
Education is key to making sustainability a priority. Clients would be willing to adopt long-term sustainable practices to their event programs if they had good proof of the long-term benefits. And that is an education piece. That is your event organisers educating their clients on the benefits, but also reporting on them post-event. And that could look like what your carbon emissions are, what the amount of waste you produced from your events, but also the social value benefit of the event that you've organised, and ensuring that those reports feed into a long-term improvement plan and you've got the data to back up exactly how long-term these events are benefiting.
Most people in our industry are heading in the right direction. The willpower is definitely there. The willingness to learn is there.
If there was clear legislation and enforced policy, everyone would be doing what they should be doing.
If I was a government minister, I would be saying, let's get everybody in a room and let us agree. Let's create legislation that's deliverable, right? That is achievable. Come and talk to us because we will be able to help you design policy that actually works. We've got this wealth of experience, wealth of knowledge, wealth of understanding, and we can prove it.
The challenge now is carrying this momentum into the wider industry. ensuring these ideas move beyond good intentions to become the new standard for how events are planned, produced, and experienced.
There's lots of learnings that we could get from each other. So kind of cross-pollination across these different initiatives could really benefit our events industry to be more sustainable.
When we look at sustainability, what's happening is the agencies start to collaborate, right? To talk together and try to find what should we tell the industry. And by doing so, I think it really brings sustainability again as a new normal.
I think it's on us producers to set the blueprint and to keep everyone on that journey, giving teams time to plan, source responsibly without last-minute panic orders, and building in proper waste management.
If there's one thing that I'd like every planner, attendee, organiser to understand about waste, is not the financial cost, but the environmental cost. This is a problem that is today's problem, but tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, it's going to become an even bigger problem.
It's the only planet we got. We can't keep on abusing everything like we've done in the past. And every little thing that can be your bin at home or the recycling that we do at events, yeah, it can only help to make a more sustainable future for everyone.
In our Indigenous group wisdom, we have a saying, it's basically whatever we do, we have to bear in mind of the 7 generations from now on, whether it's environment or for the society or for the community that we serve.
If we can all start to look at ourselves as guardians of this planet that we call home and start to take responsibility for how we think, move, behave, then I have no doubt that we can create a better future for the generations to come.
Events carry immense power. The concerts, the festivals, the award shows, the exhibitions that shape our lives. Yet behind the spectacle lies a cost, one that the planet can no longer afford to pay. Across the industry, people are innovating and proving unforgettable experiences just don't have to harm the Earth. Events have always been about bringing people together. Now we must come together for something even greater, to protect the very world that makes them possible. We have a chance to transform our industry into one that creates both extraordinary memories and a future worth celebrating. A new opportunity. A clean slate.